this is Gladys Briggs from Maths Junction. In this lesson, we're going to be looking at simplifying surds. I take it that you already know what surds are. If you don't, then a surd is the square root of any number which is not a square number. So the square root of 2 would be a surd, the square root of 3 would be a surd, but the square root of 4 will not be a surd because that would be equal to 2. Surds are irrational. Yeah, they are types of irrational numbers. Okay, now that we know what surds are, let's have a look at how we can simplify surds. If you are yet to subscribe to this channel, please could you click on the subscribe button so that we are able to provide you more fun lessons, fun math lessons. There are two main rules which you are required to know if you want to be able to simplify surds. The two rules are the square root of a times b is equal to the square root of a times the square root of b. And the second rule is the square root of a over b is equal to the square root of a over the square root of b. So that's when you're multiplying surds, and that's when you're dividing surds. Now this example says to simplify the square root of 12. The first thing I'm going to be thinking about are the factors of 12, but particularly the factors of 12 that contain a square number. So the factors of 12 would be I've got 12 times 1, I got 6 times 2, and I got 4 times 3. And I think those are the main factor pairs. And of all of them, I'm going to decide to go with this one because this one contains a square number. That one contains a square number. So using my multiplication rule here, I'm going to have rewrite that now as the square root of 12 is equal to the square root of 4 times 3, which is equal to the square root of 4 times the square root of 3, and the square root of 4, we already know that that is equal to 2. So that would be written as 2 times root 3. We do not have to write the multiplication sign at this point. Yeah, so that's that one done. Here's another example. It says simplify the square root of 45. Using the multiplication rule, the factors of 45 that contain a square number that quickly comes to mind is 9 times 5, because 9 is a square number. I could use any other factors, 15 times 3, but that would mean me working more and more because they are not square numbers. Okay, so let's rewrite that now as the square root of 45 is equal to the square root of 9 times the square root of 5. This would be equal to this we know that the square root of 9 is 3, so we will just rewrite that as 3 root 5, and that's done for that one. This example is an algebraic one. It says simplify the square root of x squared times y. Now don't be put off by the letters, by the use of x and y. And in algebra, most of the rules are the same rules that apply in number work. So we're just going to use the multiplication rule as well. If we rewrite this as the square root of x squared y is equal to the square root of x squared times the square root of y, then we know that the square root of x squared is x square root of x times the square root of x, which that would give us x, okay, times root y, and that would just be x root y. Yeah, you should know that any number, the square root of any number times that number, the square root of that number is going to give you the number itself. So if you've done the square root of 3 times the square root of 3, that's just gonna give you 3, and that works for any numbers or unknowns. Okay, this one says this example says simplify 3 times the square root of 50. We've already got 3 outside the surd, so we're looking at what's inside the surd now, and the square number that comes to mind is 25 times 2. So I'm just going to rewrite that as 3 root 50 is equal to 3 times root 25 times root 2. This is going to give me 3 times 5 times root 2. 3 times 5 is equal to 15. And that will be 15 times root 2, and that's done for that now, one. This example says simplify the square root of 8 divided by the square root of 2. Remember, we got the division rule, so let's use the division rule. If we rewrite this as the square root of 8 over the square root of 2 is equal to the square root of 8 divided by 2. This is going to give us the square root of 4, and that's just going to give us 2. Simple, one straight line. In this last example, it's very similar to the first one, to the previous one. Yeah, so it says simplify the square root of 12 over the square root of 3. So we're going to use the division rule. Let's rewrite that then as the square root of 12 over the square root of 3 is equal to the square root of 12 over 3. That's just going to give us the square root of 4, very similar to the last one. Yeah, so that's done. That's everything you need to know about simplifying surds. And the next lesson, I'm going to be talking about basic operators with surds, so adding and subtracting surds, and then maybe multiplying surds, and rationalizing the denominator. So see you in those ones. Bye now. Bye.